The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. Then on the Talkstar Radio Network. Then the show is repeated in its entirety on several other broadcast networks worldwide from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. Eastern. And then from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. Eastern. Our worldwide toll-free call number is 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv at hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My first guest tonight is Freddy Silva, and he is one of the world's leading experts on crop circles and sacred sites, and a leading researcher of earth mysteries and ancient systems of knowledge. He lectures internationally and has made keynote presentations at the International Science and Consciousness Conference, and the International Society for the Study of Subtle Energies and Energy Medicine, in addition to appearances on the History Channel, Discovery Channel, BBC, numerous video documentaries, and international radio shows. And his website is www.cropcirclesecrets.org. And we're going to be talking to Freddy today about his new book, Secrets in the Fields, The Science and Mysticism of Crop Circles. Joining me now is Freddy Silva. Freddy, welcome to the X Zone.
Hello again, Rob.
Tell me, Freddy, where did your interest in crop circles originate?
Probably when I was 3, when I was drawing pyramids on pieces of paper as a child. Mm-hmm. I think it all started back then. It actually happened in Chicago back in the early 90s when I was watching this television program. And I don't know what it was because I was just sort of ironing a shirt or something and had the sound turned off. And I just happened to see this presentation on the picture, some big sign created out of corn somewhere in England. And I just recognized what the symbol was. I couldn't really explain what it was, but something inside me just turned. And it's as if my whole life just began to sort of change at that moment. I had to know what that symbol was and what was behind it. And it sort of led to about 15 years of discovery, revelation, a lot of hard work, getting down on my knees, looking at bent wheat stalks around the earth. And the rest is history, as they say.
All right, you and I will be discussing Secrets in the Field, the science and mysticism of crop circles, and much more, Freddy, when you and I come back from this 2-minute commercial break. X Zone Nation, Freddy Silva is our very special guest. We're talking about crop circles this hour in the X Zone, a very interesting topic. And for more information on Freddy and the work that he's done, and it's a very interesting website. I spent a couple of hours there last night at www.cropcirclesecrets.org. That's cropcirclesecrets.org. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Don't go away, X Zone Nation. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Exonation, for years, people have been both fascinated and mystified by complex designs that suddenly appear at night on fields of grain. Nobody knows how they get there or why. They leave the grain stalks and flattened, swirled, virtually undamaged. They exhibit mathematical precision. They demonstrate principles of geometry and portray ancient religious symbols. Since the 1980s, some 10,000 crop circles have appeared, seemingly by magic. Each year the count grows and the designs get more and more intricate, even fantastic. Freddy, Silva, our guest tonight, has written Secrets in the Fields. It provides the most thoroughly researched, most comprehensive account of crop circles ever published. Now, Exonation, for the first time, readers are offered the complete history of the phenomenon, the anomalies that defy the boundaries of science, the source, and why they are here now. And Freddy, thanks very much for joining us. And during the commercial break, you and I were talking that the last time you were on the show was some 4 years ago when you were giving a talk here in Toronto.
I believe so, yeah. I have a small following in Canada. Must be the accent or something. And I certainly always enjoy it out there, even in Nova Scotia. I have a lot of fans out there, so always good to be out there.
Well, it's great having you back up here in Canada, even if it is on the radio show, and we're getting your message today right around the world. We've grown considerably since you were on with us last year, or in the 4 years ago. But, Freddie, I'd like to ask you this question, and I'm sure you get this asked everywhere you go. How is it possible to distinguish a hoaxed crop circle from an authentic crop circle?
Oh, quite easily once you've done this a number of years, as I have. Mm-hmm. If you don't have access to laboratories and such, one of the simplest ways to detect the difference is to basically go there as quickly as you can and take a look at what's happened to the plants. And if it's a genuine circle, there hasn't been any physical pressure applied to the plants. So what you'll find is something very magical, where the plants are bent about an inch above the soil. Mm-hmm. They look as if they've been made molten like glass, and they re-hardened on their horizontal basis. And they're scarcely touching the floor. In fact, they're almost hovering over the floor. And the moment you put your foot on them, they literally sink into the clay. That's the first indication. The second indication is if you look under the swirl pattern, and you lift up the swirl and you find these little sort of 6 to 8 inch wide sort of bands of straight lines, you'll know that that's been hoaxed, because those are the construction lines that these people use to try and, outline their design, and they fill it in like children learning how to draw. But on the real ones, as opposed to the man-made ones. The man-made ones are full of damage, obviously, because they've had to use garden rollers and planks of wood to flatten them. So that gives the whole game away. But in the real ones, there's no damage whatsoever. And also, if you look at the actual stems, they're actually slightly burnt on the bottom and also around the nodes. Those are the plant's knuckles. It allows them to bring themselves back up to the light in case they've been damaged by wind or rain. So there are these little sort of sections which look like they've been burned, and that's usually the effect of ultrasound on the water inside the plants, which makes the plants do what they do. And if you look very carefully at these nodes, which have expanded, there's these little holes which suddenly occur. And what's happened is that there's this infrasonic frequency that we know is there because the evidence is on the ground itself in the plants. Mm-hmm. These frequencies, when they involve high pressure, they actually boil the water inside the plant stem. And of course, if you ever try and make a cup of tea, you'll find that the water in the kettle, it expands when you boil it. And it's the same thing with the plant. And when that water expands in 1 nanosecond, and we know it takes that long from experiments done at Stanford University, the water then has to find somewhere to go. And since it's inside an enclosed system like a plant, it exploits that node of the plant, and it creates a hole from the inside. And very quickly, just like the film Alien, mm-hmm. the water comes out of this hole. And it creates steam, and I have at least 5 testimonies from farmers in England, and also one from Canada, ironically, who witnessed these crop circles forming at about 5 in the morning, and they saw steam coming out of the design. So that's how we finally figured out what was causing it.
Is there an alien connection, UFO connection with crop circles?
Yes and no. It depends on your idea of alien. Okay. If you tend to think of aliens as nuts and bolts people and spaceships and things, the evidence is rather circumstantial. If you lived in the south of England as long as I did mm-hmm. and watched military helicopters chasing physical craft, as have some of the local police, then yes, they are around. The problem is no one's ever directly seen physical UFOs actually making these things. What people have seen them, and there's at least 80 eyewitnesses to back this up, and some of them are military people, is that these things seem to be preceded by either brightly colored orbs, or which don't seem to be physical at all, or beams of light, which I've actually captured on film. And it seems to me that the concept of alien in this case seems to refer almost to a life force which, just like us, it exists perfectly physically on its level of reality, but just like a radio station, whereas, we humans, all our molecules in our body vibrate at a certain frequency to make us look physical. Mm-hmm. Let's say human beings are on the 98 FM station dial. Well, this force probably exists on something like 1,000 FM. And the fact that our brains and our eyes cannot fathom anything beyond a certain frequency means that we can't perceive them. So once in a while they make their presence known by sending us information in this way. So it really depends on your perception of alien, but it certainly isn't local, that's for sure.
So are we talking about a parallel universe, a different dimension? Are we talking about a wormhole? Are we talking about a dimensional slip? Are we talking about a fracture in the time-space continuum? Are they sending us these messages deliberately, or is this something that just happens as our two existences temporarily greet?
Oh, it's a very deliberate piece of communication, and it's almost as if they're on a different level of reality to ours. They just happen to be on a different plateau, if you like. And it's a group consciousness, and from the amount of evidence that I've been able to gather, and there's a lot of it, it seems that these people seem to come in and out of our history, and sometimes they'll appear in the Egyptian lore. Right. They'll exist in legends throughout Britain and Europe. Sometimes we call them fairies, sometimes we call them will-o'-the-wisp. Mm-hmm. Christians would call them archangels. The ancient Celts used to call them the watchers or the shining ones. Mm-hmm. And the Egyptians used to call them the Neter, the creator gods. And they seem to pop out in and out of history at specific moments when we seem to need a little nudge down here to get us back on track. And it's funny that the crop circle phenomenon, which is not really a modern phenomenon, it has been going on for at least 400 years. It's just that in the latter part of the 20th century, it really has come to the forefront to get our attention. And this is the way that the invisible universe, a technique that it uses to get our attention. They want us to focus on something, to get us to go beyond our limitations down here, and also to pay attention to our responsibility of what we're doing to ourselves, to each other, and also to the planet in general. And it sounds like a very new age message, but it's very important considering what's happening right now. So if you look at the history of the symbols from year to year, you go back retrospectively, and you find that there is a message there. There is information that governs new laws of mathematics. There are information that governs the speeds of light, at which time science only knew that there was one speed of light. Well, by decoding some of the symbols, we've now discovered 3 speeds of light, which orthodox science has now grudgingly accepted. We've also discovered new methods of healing, and so on and so forth. So this is information which is very valuable. They're feeding us little nuggets of knowledge so we can then go and apply and basically take responsibility for ourselves, because no one's going to come down here and fix things for us. That would be ridiculously too easy.
Of
and
course.
would defeat the purpose of us being here in the first place. So there is a deliberate transmission taking effect, and now we're just sitting on this information. I mean, I was able to decode a small part of it, but it's going to take a lot more people to basically work on it. There were, excuse me, a group of scientists in Britain and Australia who, on the original cover of my book, they took that design and they basically built it out of 3D, and they were able to basically use it as an anti-gravity device. And there's another gentleman in Oklahoma who's built the device in his house, and he's also going to levitate. And that was part of some of the channeled information that we received way back in the early days of the phenomenon, that there was information to do with the illusion of gravity, and in time that we would decode these symbols to build a machine that would defy gravity, and it's slowly coming true.
Are they giving you the designs of a machine that will allow you or some of the other researchers to actually enter into their realm to have a one-on-one communication with them?
No, and it'll never happen, because one of the things that, if you look throughout just human history, how we go to places like Borneo or New Guinea, and we encounter people who've been quietly minding their own business for thousands of years, and we know only too well how damaging the interactions between advanced cultures are. And I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think that these beings are people who understand the laws of the universe, and what they're trying to do is show some concern as to where we're going, and they're giving us the tools so we can do it for ourselves. Because just if you look at just the way that the governments tend to handle matters to do with UFOs, and even the church's attitude on UFOs seems to suggest that we shoot them down first and we examine them later, and that is not going to help matters to then have direct communication with an extraterrestrial source. Having said that, from my research into crop circles and also the sacred sites, which they always appear next to, including in the Canadian prairies, the crop circles would always appear beside ancient sacred sites. It seems that they are using the Earth's magnetic field, the actual telluric lines of force across the Earth, to position their designs. Just like in the old days, every single temple in the world, without exception, is built on the same lines of magnetic energy. And if you and I go and stand on these things, and we do things properly, and we learn the techniques, this is why we went to these places for thousands of years, because it does allow us a certain escape from this reality into another level of existence, from which we then extract information and bring it back to the tribe.
Freddy, you and I have to take a commercial break. With the news, please stand by. Exo Nation. Freddy Silva is our very special guest. We're talking about crop circles, and Freddy's got a brand new book out. It's entitled Secrets in the Fields, The Science and Mysticism of Crop Circles. His website is www.cropcirclesecrets.org. More of this fascinating topic when we come back after the news here in the X Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401 courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Freddy Silva is our very special guest this hour, Exonation. He's the author of Secrets in the Fields, The Science and Mysticism of Crop Circles. His website is www.cropcirclesecrets.org. Freddy, I asked you off air if crop circles have ever been found in the snow, and you told me a fascinating story of a crop circle that happened not very far from you in the snow.
Yes, about 1997, I just had dinner with a friend of mine in Portland, Maine, where I live now, and got a message when I got back home and telling me that to come back to the house because something bizarre had happened just about 200 yards from the house. And I went back there, and there was a huge oval shape on the ground in the snow, as if some huge circular cookie cutter just pressed the snow, but in a spiral pattern, and there was no footprints going anywhere near it. It was just the most beautiful thing. Even the ice crystals were aligned at a specific angle, which I recognized very well from my work with the serial crop circles. In fact, there's another story as well in Afghanistan. Apparently there was a group of British physicists who were out there doing some exploratory geophysics, and they came across a crop circle also in the snow, and this one apparently was also had geometry in it, and that converted them from skeptics quite quickly.
Tell me, what is the average size of a crop circle, and what is the largest crop circle you've ever seen?
They vary. I mean, they can be as small as 4 feet in diameter, and they tend to be some of the most powerful as well. People don't tend to pay much attention to them because they're just little circles. We call them grape shot, just like the old days when you had these big sort of guns and used to put this sort of buckshot into the into the muzzle. Yeah. And but they tend to pack some of the most important energy I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen Geiger counters go completely off the scale in these things. They'll even drain your batteries dead in seconds. So they're quite potent little things. But the biggest genuine one I've seen was about 3/4 of a mile wide. And it was stretched out over about a field and a half of wheat in England. But generally, they tend to be around, 400-500 feet in diameter, and sometimes quite complex as well.
Is there a connection between crop circles and other aspects of the paranormal, Freddy?
Oh, huge. And if you spend any time in crop circles or ancient temples, for that matter, you'll find that the veil between worlds becomes very thin if you go there with the right intent. With open of heart, and also ask the right questions. And the more you do it, just like driving a car, the better you get at perceiving what stands between you and the next level of reality. And I can tell you from experience that the veil is very, very thin between worlds. And I have had a number of experiences whereby I have been able to make contact with the other side of this phenomenon. And it's a fascinating place. I mean, it's almost like having a near-death experience, I guess, but without the traumatic side effects. Yeah. I was sitting in one crop circle one evening, and I just lied there, just asking questions about what's the connection with sound, how these things affect gravity, or what's to do with magnetism. I was just asking questions. I was very curious and open-minded. I remember being levitated off the ground. In fact, the first thing that happened was that I was feeling very anxious, and it's as if someone came up behind me and whacked me with a baseball bat on the back of my neck. It didn't hurt. It's as if I'd just been administered some anesthetic. And I felt my body go very limp, and next thing I know, I was watching my hands move past me and my arms move past me, and I couldn't feel the ground under me. And I remember being, even to this day, I can see it very clearly. There was these beautiful, very, very tall people on either side, 3 on either side, dressed in very long, sort of white silk robes, 2 at the front at my feet, and they were making the most incredible shapes with their hands. It's almost like geometry with their hands, like those dances you have in Bali. And I think it took about 45 minutes. I mean, it seemed to go like a blink of an eye, but I had a tape recorder with me. And in the old days where you had C90 tape, and in 45 minutes your tape stops and your machine goes click. Yeah. And I heard the click, and I hit the ground with such a thud that I had an actual bump on the back of my head for 3 days later.
Oh, my heavens.
So I know I didn't make it up, but after that, I didn't realize what the communication was about until I went back home to New Hampshire and literally just sat down and wrote 5 chapters of a book in a week. And as a writer, I can tell you that doesn't happen. So obviously there was some important communication that was given, and to this day, reading part of that book, I still don't know where half of it came from. I really don't, but it was quite an incredible event that converted me from being an atheist to believing in another life force in about 0.5 seconds.
Now, I understand, Freddy, that you may have a theory of how music may account for their creation.
Very much so, and I was looking for the creative force as to how, why is it that physics can't explain this? Why are plant biologists stumped by this phenomenon? And I guess the answer was, well, let's go back to the basics, which is let's look at the hard evidence on the ground and see what this happens, how plants can be made to do this. And I began researching work that was done with sound and plants in India in the 1920s, where they had done exactly the same thing. They wanted to evaluate the effects on sound on living organisms, and they found that the effects caused by certain forms of music induced very similar effects to that we were finding in the real crop circles, specifically the bending from the vertical to the horizontal of the plant stems, and it involved Indian music called raga. It's sort of almost a musical version of Sanskrit, which is the vestiges of the words of God, as they call it. And one thing led to another. I began to look at the evidence under the microscope. There was a doctor in Michigan called William Levengood who analyzed the plants and found the water had been boiled on the inside. The nodes had been stretched. There was this charring effect. And by the time I finished looking at sound from so many points of view, I realized that sounds below the human hearing range can actually do that. Because at the time we thought that microwave might be behind this, but microwave is a very destructive thing, and there's nothing about these things that is destructive at all. It's an incredibly benevolent phenomenon. And when I began to look at infrasound and how it boiled the water, how it was able to alter molecules and change chromosomes, suddenly the thing just hit. We could find every single feature in the crop circles relative to the effects of infrasound, and that's how the theory stuck.
Freddy, what is the message you believe that the creators of the crop circles are trying to get across to us?
It's a multiple-level piece of information. It's almost like the film Contact by Jodie Foster. Yeah. And she gets that scrambled message, and it has video attached to it and all kinds of things. And it's the same thing. It's like Egyptian hieroglyphs. They have multiple levels of information, and it's always been said that the sign of an advanced culture lies in its ability to encode multiple levels of information into a simple symbol. And what we find, having people working on the same symbol from different points of view, will come up with very different answers, but they'll all be related. So it's as if one symbol will give you multiple information. So some of the one symbol, for example, will heal people. I've seen people healed of retinal cancer just by looking at one of these symbols. I've seen people take the same symbol and they'll extract information which is extremely meaningful spiritually to Aboriginal tribes, and they'll tell you about the secrets that were given to them thousands of years ago, about the end of times. It's just to do with the change of cycles. I mean, it's not as if we're all going to die in 2 years' time. It's all about the change of cycles and how to prepare properly for these things. And then we have physicists who look at the symbol and say, well, wait a minute, this has got technical information. And they'll extract machinery out of it, or mathematical theorems, or new geometrical formats. So there's something in it for everybody. So it's impossible to say. But when you start coming back to it after 15 years of research and seeing the big picture, there seems to be one overriding theme, and that is that we basically have, as a society, have lost responsibility for what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And by having someone from the outside who obviously is approaching this communication from a benevolent point of view, it's telling us that, first of all, we're not alone. Two, that we have help from the outside, and three, if we just apply this information and learn to cooperate, that perhaps we can just sort out a lot of the problems that we're faced with today. And it goes back to that sort of almost new agey message, which is always very fluffy, but it's very, very true when you look around and see what's happening to the world today. And that's essentially what it comes down to. It's about a message from a group consciousness that's very concerned about our welfare, always has been, and it always pops up through history at times when humans seem to lose the plot. So that's the trick to it. It's to stay open-minded with this information, apply it on a day-to-day basis, and just see how we can make this a better world to live in.
Tell me, Freddy, because these crop circles seem to have been forming near sacred sites, and you and I were talking earlier about the connection between the geomagnetic lines and churches of when they were first put up. Is it possible that people have had similar experiences like you have had with para-contact with the other side, that this is where the interpretation of heaven has come from?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm just in the middle of writing a new book, and I was just looking at that exactly. There was a particular experience that I had, which is very personal inside the Great Pyramid. And I didn't go there looking for an experience. It just happened, and I have good proof behind it. And I was reading many, many years later an account by a gentleman called Paul Brunton, who was touring Egypt in the 1930s, and he describes exactly the same series of circumstances that happened to him in the Great Chamber, in the pyramid, and exactly the same beings that he saw in the same circumstances. And you can't make this stuff up. No. I mean, these events are separated by 70 years. But if you look at the general attitude to people's experiences in temples and how they also have the same experiences in crop circles, the common denominator is back down to where they are. They're all lined along the Earth's geomagnetic paths of energy where they intersect, and these are the points where magic tends to occur, where strange things occur, where balls of light appear. And in the case of Bruce Cathy in New Zealand, the airline pilot who mapped the paths of hundreds of UFOs in the Pacific, we finally figure out that these are the conveyor belts of the universe. This is where information transfers between point to point to point, and how people were able to communicate with each other using telepathy, because when it all comes down to it, it's all about energy, it's all about magnetism, and we are magnetic, so is the Earth, and so is every phenomenon in the universe. So when you look at it from that minuscule point of view, that's the common denominator. These are points on the Earth's surface where the veil between worlds is very thin. So whenever we're in trouble, we should go back to those places, which is again brings us back to the crop circles. Why are they always appearing beside the ancient sacred sites? Well, it's to try and get us to realize that we have this legacy all around the Earth of sacred places of power that were built as an insurance policy by our predecessors for us to go back to whenever we would lose the plot. And I can guarantee anybody who's listening that if you go to one of these places with an open mind, incredible things will happen for you.
Is it because humanity is so egotistical now that so many people do not understand the delicate balance between reality and spiritualism?
I think it's a matter of things. I mean, we've always been egotistical, I think, to a certain degree. There's always been that core of people who have always tried to keep the light burning, and all things being equal, there's always good and bad in the world, and it'll always be that way. I think that we've just lost sight of things in the last 300 years with the Newtonian view of the world. We've thought that science was going to answer everything. You know, we went from a shift from honoring the earth to killing people at the stake and, nailing them up on the cross because they happen to believe in the spirit world. And yet the Catholic Church, of course, is predominantly at the center of all of this, and their beliefs. The millions of people that are being burnt alive and killed in the name of a god, when in fact all these people are doing worshiping the same god, just calling it by a different name. So That's part of the secular version of things. That the religious part of it also has a part to play in this problem. Faith is a completely different thing to religion. The two are not the same. But when you add science to the mix and it's complete devaluing of anything that is not tangible, that is not empirical, and it's not cannot be measured, now then we have a huge problem. And I think as a lot of enlightened scientists have now begun to realize there is a lot more going on that we can't see or can't touch because we don't have the machinery to measure it. And they understand that what the ancestors were doing, they were in touch with something that is intangible, but yet it's very real. So I'm seeing slowly, as many enlightened people are around the world, that science and the mysticism are coming back together again. You just have to accept that we just don't know everything. So it's about keeping an open mind, I think. That's what it comes down to.
Freddy, you and I have to take our final break for this hour. Please stand by. Exo Nation, Freddy Silva is our special guest. He is the author of Secrets in the Fields, The Science and Mysticism of Crop Circles. Now, to find out more about Freddy, as well as you can buy a copy of his book and other books that he's written online at his website, www.cropcirclesecrets.org. That's www.cropcirclesecrets.org. Freddy Silva and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send us an email, it's very simple, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and visit our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. If you've missed any of our shows, xzonepodcast.com. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Freddy Silva is our special guest this hour, Exo Nation, www.cropcirclesecrets.org. He's the author of Secrets in the Field, The Science and Mysticism of Crop Circles. Freddy, what would you like people, discovering while and after they've read your book?
I've never had a bad review, so far so good. It seems that they seem to get the point that the book is really much more about nuts and bolts, about crop circles. There's a bigger spiritual angle to it, because it's really written to try and get people to understand that there's help. A lot of help around us if we just allow it to reach us. And it really is a very profound spiritual message, which I had no idea was going to go in that path when I was writing this book. It just seemed to have come as a revelation at the end, because it seems to where all the points were headed. Mm-hmm. And it really is a book about self-empowerment. Once you realize that these things are here and the information is around you, and you let it sink in, you'd be amazed how self-empowered you suddenly become. And that's part of the problem of the last 2,000 years. We tend to have given our power away to the few who control the many. And, of course, as we're beginning to realize, especially this year, we discovered that it doesn't work. And part of the message of why so many interesting phenomena are happening right now, and particularly the crop circles being central to that, is the sense of getting people to take power for themselves again. And I think that's the one thing that people will definitely get out of the book.
What should people do if they believe they've discovered a crop circle? How should they approach it? Is there anything special they should do to preserve the crop circle's integrity until experts like yourself or other researchers are called and come down to the scene?
Always get permission from the landowner, of course, if you possibly can, because and I found over the years that Canadian farmers are very open to this. In fact, they'll even mow the field around the design until someone can get to it, whereas in England, people even try to shoot you. I think there's quite enough about this. It's been going on for over 20 years over there, and all they get to hear is the hoax angle on the BBC. You approach it with reverence, as you would approach a saint, and that's how I was treated. And try to take some measurements, take some precautions as well, because if it's a real thing, try not to take any electrical equipment into it and let it touch the floor. I've seen a busload of tourists put their video cameras on the floor, only to have the crystal structure inside their equipment get short-circuited by the electromagnetic energy of the crop circle. And it's a very expensive phenomenon when it comes to cameras. Even the BBC found out to their dismay when they crossed the perimeter of a crop circle, red warning lights go all over the place. So if you see those signs, just back out. And it depends also on the frequency of the pattern. Sometimes people feel very high when they go into it, and sometimes they'll also feel the opposite. And if you start feeling a little bit ill, back out, because it's probably just not consistent with your body's frequency, and you'll find that a week later it'll be fine, and the frequencies will change, and you feel very elated. So, it's a very benevolent phenomenon. I mean, it causes no damage to anybody or anything, so obviously it means no harm.
Freddie, we've got to say so long for tonight, but I'd love to have you back on in the future, because we still have, I want to talk to you about the other sacred sites that you've gone to and further investigate the connection between the crop circles, the communication, the messages, and as we get closer to 2012. Freddie, thank you very much for being with us. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Rob.
Bye-bye, sir. Freddy Silva, cropcirclesecrets.org. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break. Don't go away.